Hello everyone! Welcome to the second video for Whump Wednesday. TeruShou finale is here with the remaining answers to the show's past. It got a bit bloody, so content warning for blood. I hope you will enjoy. Special thanks to my lovely Patreons, you are keeping this channel going. He should have known the relationship was a bad idea, especially with someone half older than him and almost twice his size. But he was young and stupid, only discovering his preferences, and didn't see all the red flags until it was too late. He should have left much sooner, or tell someone what was going on. Maybe then it wouldn't end so badly. But now it was too late. He was stuck in a cold, dark room with no way to escape through the locked door. His throat was already sore from his constant attempts to cry for help, but the gag in his mouth didn't let him be loud enough. Blood covered his broken nails as he dug his fingers into the floor in vain attempts to fight against the strength dragging him forward whenever it pleased. He couldn't move. He couldn't breathe. He was about as good as dead, the only response to the heavy footsteps behind the door being the tears spilling from his eyes. His muffled scream got lost in the loud bang as the door burst open. He sprang up, the scream still echoing off the walls. His throat was sore, his heart pounding against his ribs and chest heaving heavily. Cold sweat drenched his sleep t-shirt, sticking it to his skin and making him shiver violently in the cold night air. Then the cold was suddenly chased away by a pleasant warmth, the shivers dying down as warm hands started to rub his arms. Shh, shh. It's okay, love. You are safe, I promise. You are safe here. A strangled sob tore from Daishio's throat when he recognized Terushima's voice. Right. He was home, in their bedroom. There was nothing to be scared of. First tears rolled down onto the sheets as he sucked into Terushima's embrace, clutching to his t-shirt as if his life depended on it. Which wasn't that far from the truth. It's okay. It was just a nightmare. You are safe here, I promise. Can you take a deep breath? It will help you, really. I know you can do it. Taking a shaky breath, Daishio followed Terushima's example, finding comfort in the steady beating of his boyfriend's heart under his trembling palm. That's it. You are doing great. Carry on, okay? Deep breaths. Sorry. Shh. Don't worry about anything, okay? Just breathe. Take your time. No rush. Forcing himself to take deep breaths, Daishio's heartbeat slowly settled into the somewhat normal rhythm. His hands still trembled, as did the rest of his body, but the panicked mist was lifted from his mind, allowing him to think again. He was home. Terushima was with him. It was just another nasty nightmare plaguing him once again almost every night since they hastily returned from their botched vacation. Why can't it go away? The arms around him tightened their embrace, bringing him closer to Terushima's chest. I don't know. I wish I knew what to do to get you rid of it. I would do anything to get rid of those memories for you. Daishio clenched his jaw, a few more tears rolling down his cheeks when he instinctively snuggled closer to his boyfriend. As if Terushima wasn't doing more than enough already. He was the answer to his previously unheard calls for help, the one he prayed for the whole of 3 days before he managed to loosen the bonds around his wrist enough to get out of them, even for the price of tearing his skin open, and escape. Sometimes, when the time was bad, he could still feel the thin rope tightening around his wrists, feel his breath shortening as if he still had his mouth stuffed with a smelly cloth and covered with duct tape. Feel the harsh hands holding his face in place when he tried to avoid any and all contact. It all made him want to puke, to scratch his skin until it bled to get rid of the crawling feeling, to tear his hair out to not let them betray him again by becoming a leverage. It was exactly at those moments when Terushima appeared next to him, soothing his invisible scars with his soft voice and the gentlest of touches. He never complained. He never asked for details. But he was always there for him, no matter how crazy his panics got. As if reading his thoughts, Terushima ran his fingers through his hair, making him shiver. Do you want me to shorten it again? Daishio hesitated, since it wasn't that long since his last haircut, but then nodded, his heart speeding up a bit. Please. Okay, let's do that before you leave for practice tomorrow. I'll be careful, I promise. I know. I trust you. Terushima pulled him closer. You are the bravest person I know, Sugu. You know that? Daishio had his doubts about that. If he was, he wouldn't be scared of his own memories, right? He wouldn't be scared of people holding sharp objects around him, even though he knew they weren't there to hurt him. He wouldn't be scared to go to sleep, wouldn't be scared of what his mind was going to show him the next time. But somehow, everything was ever so slightly easier with Terushima by his side. When he finally got out of that room back then, trusting anyone proved to be the most difficult thing he had ever done. Old friends, family, strangers, they were all the same, always pushing him into the state of high alert. Fully prepared to never laugh again, he went through the jury and continued on with his life, now only carrying horrid memories he would rather forget and scars on his skin that refused to disappear. But then, a ray of sunshine appeared out of nowhere, bringing warmth to his skin and peace into his soul. And Daishio kept falling in love, over and over again, deeper than he could ever imagine. Because trusting Terushima was easy. He never hid anything from him, his expressiveness being the biggest gift Daishio could ever wish for. Do you think you can fall asleep again? Or I can make you some tea if you want. Shaking his head, Daishio forced himself to loosen his grip on Terushima's t-shirt and sat up, light jolts running through his skin when Terushima wiped away the wet trails from his cheeks. You don't have to. I'll try to sleep. Even in the dark, Terushima's smile shone like the sun itself. Okay, I'll be with you the whole night, I promise. Just wake me up if you need me, no matter how stupid you think it is. I'll be with you. Daishio's heart swelled. He bit back the tears about to enter his eyes again and hid his face in Terushima's shoulder. Perhaps one day, he could be the brave person Terushima saw in him. One day. Thank you. For nothing. Let's get some sleep now, shall we? There? All done? What do you think? Letting out a shaky breath, Daishio glanced into the small mirror Terushima held in front of him, taking in the now much shorter haircut. He could only thank the heavens for Terushima's occupation, which made things a bit easier on him. He was still nowhere near as calm throughout the process as he probably should be, but Terushima's patience seemed to be bottomless. And on top of that, he was talented, making even the shortest of haircuts look good. I like it. Thanks, Yuji. Terushima beamed. No problem. I'm always here to help to make you feel better. Despite the reminder of his night, and as of lately day as well, terrors, Daishio could feel his lips curling slightly upwards. He learned very shortly into their relationship that Terushima's enthusiasm was contagious, and inevitably acted as a magnet for Daishio, pulling him closer every day. But he wasn't complaining. He took Terushima's hand in his, giving it a gentle squeeze. You really are my sunshine, you know that? A faint blush appeared on Terushima's cheeks, his smile brightening the whole room. You are my moon then, and stars. Now it was Daishio's turn to blush, the heat creeping up the back of his neck. You can't say things like that. Why not when it's true? He laid his head on Daishio's shoulder, wrapping his arms around him, and Daishio's heart fluttered when he realized Terushima positioned himself in the only way they figured out didn't make him freak out back when they only started dating. He allowed himself to relax into the touch, the pleasant warmth seeping into his muscles, pushing the memories of the nightmares into the back of his mind. He wasn't as naive to think he could chase them away, but for that very moment, nothing except his boyfriend mattered to him. The pain he felt when he had to get up to make it to the practice in time was almost tangible. He would give anything to be able to stay as they were, but alas, there were things that had to come first. Terushima gave him one of his soft smiles that never ceased to make him weak in his knees, and handed him his bento, carefully wrapped in the bright yellow cloth reminding him of Terushima's hair. Call me when you leave the gymnasium, okay? Or text. Just let me know. Returning the smile, Daishio took a leap and bumped their foreheads together. He wished he could do more, to show Terushima how much he and his care meant to him through the same kinds of affection all the normal couples did. But even from his own initiation, the prospect of kissing, of having his mouth covered, made him panic. Some of his thoughts had to mirror on his face as Terushima cupped his cheek, his face softening. Don't push yourself too hard. Daishio took a hitched breath. Of course, Terushima's words could be taken in connection to the practice, but Daishio knew better. There's enough time for this. For us. I know. Thank you. Good. Now go, or you'll be late. It took all of Daishio's willpower to pull away from the warm touch. He waved Terushima goodbye and rushed towards the nearby gymnasium, deciding to make the way his pre-practice warm-up. He waved off his teammates' concerns about the dark circles under his eyes, only collecting notes about his new haircut to give them to Terushima, knowing his boyfriend loved to hear feedback on his creations, even if it was just a cut. He managed to force his mind to focus solely on the practice and nothing else, though he couldn't stop the occasional worried thoughts from entering his mind. As much as he wanted to believe they were safe at home, he was well aware his ex was not the right person to underestimate. Of course, Terushima could take care of himself, Daishio had no doubts about that, but this was different. He kept checking his phone every time he got to the bench, his heart almost stopping every time in fear of finding a missed call or message on it. But nothing of that sort came through, and when Terushima responded in his usual excited way full of emojis to his text telling him he was going home now, Daishio allowed himself a relieved breath. Still, as he made his way home through the small park near their house, he couldn't stop looking over his shoulder, a feeling of someone's eyes following him making his skin crawl. The park was surprisingly lively that day, with a lot of families and people walking dogs moving around, and he couldn't spot anyone who could pose a danger to him. But the feeling didn't want to go away. On the contrary, it only grew stronger the closer to home he got. In a desperate urge to make it stop, he grabbed his phone and called the most used contact. Hey Sugu, are you on the way? The tension wrapped tightly around Daishio's chest eased its grip the moment he heard Terushima's voice. Yeah, He wasn't sure how to continue. It was just a dumb feeling that made him call his boyfriend, and now he didn't know what to say to not sound completely paranoid. Sugu? Is everything alright? Yeah, everything is fine. It's just that... I don't know how to explain it. It's just a feeling, but... But? The feeling hit him like a truck once again, sending ice-cold shivers down his spine. But just as before, he couldn't see anything suspicious behind his back. Sugu, please talk to me. What's going on? Can you come meet me by the park? Please. I don't know what's happening, but I'm scared. Please. Okay, I'm on the way. Go to that bench we always sit on. I'll meet you there. And stay on the phone. Don't hang up. Daishio nodded, even though he knew Terushima couldn't see it, and did as he was told. The soft rustling from the other end telling him Terushima was already on the way, calming down his racing heart a bit. He didn't stop looking over his shoulder the whole time, the short way feeling like an entire eternity that finally ended when he spotted Terushima rushing to the familiar bench. He barely managed to hold back tears when Terushima hugged him, the phone almost falling from his trembling fingers. It's okay. No need to be scared. Let's get you home now. I'm sorry I dragged you here. Hey, nothing like that. You called for help, nothing for apologizing for that. But... He fell silent when Terushima cupped his face in his palms. Sugu, you were scared. If me coming here for you makes you feel safe, then there's no way I would blame you for calling me. Understood? Daishio did, but it didn't make him feel any better. Still, he nodded and clung to Terushima's hand when he entwined their fingers together, letting him lead the way home. Maybe you should leave for a few days. Daishio clenched his jaw, despair bubbling in his chest. He should have known telling Terushima about the strange feeling from before was going to make him worried. As if it wasn't enough, his own heart was in his throat the whole time until the door of their house closed behind them. Yuji, please don't. Maybe it really was just my mind acting up. But what if not? What if he somehow found out where you live and was following you? He could be waiting for the right moment to come here and surprise you when you'll be here alone. You have to go somewhere else. You have to run away. Daishio clenched his jaw and fists, frustrated by his own ineptness. All he was doing for the past 3 years was running away. From his ex, from his memories, from his fear. And now he was supposed to do it again and let Terushima take the blow for him? And what if he surprises you here? What if he hurts you? I can't let that happen. Sugu, no, I'm not leaving. You are my boyfriend. I live here with you, and it's going to stay that way. He got up and gripped Terushima's biceps in a desperate attempt to make the message go across, as well as to steady himself. Please don't send me away. I know you want to protect me, but I can't leave you here alone either. Not when I dragged you into this. Terushima watched him for a silent moment before sighing. He took Daishio's hands into his, leaving a feather-light kiss on his fingers. You didn't drag me into anything. I wouldn't be here if I didn't want to be. He sighed again, a pained expression settling on his face. Promise me you'll be careful. Outside, here, doesn't matter. If you think something isn't right, call me. Or police. I promise. But you promise me you won't try to deal with this on your own. We are in this together, right? He wasn't sure if he was allowed to say that, once again dragging Terushima into a mess he had nothing to do with. But Terushima flashed him a much livelier smile before pulling him into a firm embrace. Damn right we are. Despite the brave face he tried to put on as he watched Terushima dressing up, Daishio could feel the dread churning in his stomach already, sinking it like a big stone. He knew it was inevitable that he was going to stay at home alone, but that knowledge didn't make it any easier for him. It wasn't even half a day since he had to call Terushima to get him, and now that Terushima was leaving for work, he had to forcibly stop himself from pleading for him to stay at home. Not only because of him, but for Terushima's safety as well. But he didn't have the right to interfere with Terushima's job based on his fears. I would still be much calmer if you could come with me. Daishio gave him a sad smile, adjusting the collar of his jacket. I will be distracting you, and your boss wouldn't be pleased. She can kiss my ass with that. I don't get how she doesn't understand this is an emergency. Yuji, you shouldn't badmouth your boss. And who is going to tell on me? I'm still home. He became serious again, taking Daishio's hands in his. Call me if you think something isn't right, okay? And lock everything. Daishou nodded, letting out a shaky breath when Terushima leaned their foreheads together. I will. Be careful. With a short nod, Terushima closed the door behind him, leaving Daishou alone in the hallway. The house suddenly seemed much scarier. It wasn't even dark yet, but even the light coming in through the windows couldn't chase away the heavy feeling that settled on Daishou's chest. He tried to shake it off, but the longer he looked at the closed door, the heavier his heart became. Come on, man up a bit for God's sake. He was about to head to the living room to hopefully come to different thoughts by studying the materials they were sent by the team manager on their next opponent, when the lock behind him clicked again, stopping him in his tracks. Did you forget something? The terrified scream leaving his throat got drowned in the loud bang of the door swinging open, and then cut short when a large hand covered his mouth and pushed him into a wall. His vision darkened for a split second as his head collided with the wall, his stomach rolling and breathing becoming short and ragged. Moving purely on instinct and fright, he tried to push the man away from him, but the only thing he earned was a low growl when his elbow hit something soft, and then a sharp pain exploded in the side of his head, sending him to the floor. Slippery little shit! Daishou coughed and scrambled to his feet, stumbling out of the hallway to hopefully get his hands on something, anything he could use to protect himself. He yelped when a hand squeezed his shoulder hard and spun him around before pushing him into the table. You think I was done with you? Daishou's blood ran cold when the light reflected from the thin blade that appeared in the man's hand. He grabbed one of the decorative pebbles they had on the table and clenched it in his fist, taking a swing at the man's midriff. The other staggered briefly, enough for Daishou to take another swing aimed a bit higher on the chest. However, his wrist got caught in an iron grip even before he landed the hit, squeezing and twisting. He felt more than heard the sharp cracks of his bones, the pain tearing another scream from his throat. His breath got caught in his throat when the man leaned into his face, growling. You stole 3 years from me because you couldn't keep your mouth shut. You won't be telling anything after today. Daishou instinctively raised his other hand in front of his face. A sharp pain ran through his whole forearm when the knife pierced his flesh. Blood dripped down his arm as he desperately fought to keep the blade from his head, the pain from every new step intensifying the previous one. But as long as he could push the knife away, he couldn't care less. As long as he could prevent the blade from piercing through his skull, he could stay alive. As long... He cried out when the blade ran straight through his palm and stayed wedged between the bones, possibly breaking some of them in the process too. In the next second, he was flung into the living room. He hissed when his shoulder crashed into the floor with his whole weight. Both of his hands were shaking like crazy, the blood covering his left making his skin sticky. The light clinging of metal moving across wood let him know the knife fell out of his hand too. He tried to scramble to his feet, but the other man was faster, kicking him into his side and sending him gasping back on the floor. Right. Even without any weapon, his ex was still very much capable of just breaking his neck with his bare hands. Slippery little shit! Daishou squeezed his eyes shut, but no hit came. Instead, a loud bang of door echoed through the house, followed by fast footsteps. Get away from him! With a startle, Daishou watched Terushima grab the man and somehow make him stumble a few steps back before he found his balance. Yuchi! You! Terushima avoided the hit aimed at him and elbowed the man hard into the stomach to push him away again, his eyes blown wide as he half-turned to Daishou. Sugu, run! Daishou gritted his teeth, both against the pain and in frustration. Run. In his dreams. He wasn't going to run again, not now when the person he loved was in danger too. He quickly looked around, looking for any usable weapon. Even if he was going to break all the remaining bones in his hands, he was going to fight. Because this wasn't just about him anymore. A soft huff froze him in place. He turned around just for his heart to stop when Terushima's head made contact with the edge of the table. The dull thud resonated through Daishio's core, his knees buckling under him when Terushima's body crumbled unmoving on the floor, dark red blood appearing on the white towels. Yuji! He didn't get the chance to check on him, however. The other's breath was wheezy as he stomped towards him, gritted through his clenched teeth, his face scrunched in fury. Daishio reached for the vase on the coffee table, but before he could grab it, his right hand was closed in the iron shackles once again. The already broken bones moving against each other made him scream in pain until his airways got cut off by an even stronger grip on his throat. I told you, you won't get away from me this easily. Daishio gasped for air, but his breath didn't get far enough. He dug his nails into the other's forearm, using the last remnants of oxygen in his lungs to try and kick him into some sensitive place, but everything seemed in vain. He could swear he felt his airways getting crushed along with his spine under the pressure as his vision darkened. Not like this. Not like this! A sharp thud pierced his clogged ears. Suddenly, the pressure eased enough for him to take a gasping breath. And then it disappeared completely, leaving only a burning sensation on his throat. Another sharp hit accompanied by an almost animalistic growl reached his ears. He instinctively grabbed onto the couch to keep his balance. He shook his head to get it working again as more and more hits landed, slowly turning into strange, wet splats. Yuji. He glanced up, ready to rush to his boyfriend to check on him, but a sight in front of him froze him in place. Terushima's hair was stuck together by blood flowing from the wound on his head, the crimson droplets dripping down his face too. Though, on a closer inspection, not all might have been his. His arm was in constant movement as he swung what Daishio recognized as one of their pens up and down, creating a bizarre bloody art on the ceiling and walls as the pen made repeated contact with the body lying on the floor. But despite that, the hits kept coming. Daishio flinched with every dull hit that landed on his ex's face, turning it into a bloody mush. He understood Terushima's fury. He knew his ex deserved it. And yet... Yuji, stop, please. His blood ran cold when Terushima looked at him, the feral glint in his eyes and bared teeth sending shivers down his spine. But the one he was truly scared of was now lying motionless on the floor. The man in front of him was his boyfriend. The one who loved him, really loved him, and who would never hurt him. Taking a shattered breath, he extended his own trembling and bloodied hand to Terushima. It's okay. You can let go of that. And suddenly, as if turning a switch, the dark shadow of fury disappeared from Terushima's face. It was his sunshine standing in front of him again, despite his heaving chest and bloodied hands. The pen clung on the floorboards. Terushima rushed to him, squeezing him in a tight hug. Daishio sagged into his arms, first tears of both fear and relief rolling down his cheeks. Shh, shh. It's okay. It's over now. You are okay. Yeah, I'm fine. Don't worry. I was so scared when I thought you... Shh. All's good now, I promise. He tightened his arms around Daishio. I'm so sorry you had to see that. I could just think about how much he hurt you and I couldn't stop myself. Daishio shook his head, but avoided looking anywhere near the bloodied pen or the bloody pulp remaining from his ex's face. You saved my life. Some of the tension left Terushima's shoulders as he pulled him even closer if it was humanly possible. I was worried you might be scared of me. I wouldn't blame you, not really. After this... I'm not. I could never be. He took a shattered breath. I trust you. He felt Terushima pause for a brief moment before the hands on his back resumed their soothing movement. Thank you, love. He then pulled away and took off his sweatshirt, pressing it against the cut on Daishou's hand. Hold it tight, okay? I'll call you a doctor. Your head. It's fine, don't worry. I'll be right back. They kept an eye on their respective injuries until the first siren sounded outside, marking an end of a daylight nightmare. As the emergency doctor slowly led both of them into the ambulance, Daishou risked one last look at the pools of dark blood on their floor, his stomach turning at the sight. He flinched when someone lightly touched his hand, but calmed down as soon as he recognized Terushima's voice. It's okay now. He won't hurt you again. Biting his lip, Daishou nodded and leaned a bit more into Terushima's side before following him into the ambulance. Their injuries were going to heal. He wasn't going to miraculously get rid of his memories anytime soon, of course. Perhaps he wasn't going to ever forget. But that didn't matter now. He had his ray of sunshine by his side, illuminating the path ahead of him. As long as that sunshine was with him, everything was easier to overcome. He was fine. He was safe.